Not the way you expected. It was better, more magical, more synchronistic. The universe showed off through your life, just like I promised. I remember when you first started feeling it, when you first knew, really knew it was done. It wasn't hope anymore. It was certainty. You walked differently that day. Do you remember? You spoke differently. You became the person who had already received, and that's when everything accelerated. Congratulations. You finally did it. You finally understood that you don't get what you want. You get what you are. Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Congratulations. You finally did it. I knew you'd be here. I knew this moment would come. The moment where I finally get to say the words I've been holding for you. Yeah, you, the one listening. Congratulations, you did it. You actually did it. Look at you now. Just look at you. Do you remember when you thought it was impossible? Do you remember when you were convinced it would never happen? I do. I remember exactly where you were when you almost gave up. And now, here we are, on the other side of impossible, and I get to be the one to remind you of the journey. Congratulations. You finally did it. I'm not here to convince you of anything. That time is past. I'm here to celebrate with you, to acknowledge what you've accomplished, to reflect on the magnificent unfolding that brought you here. Because you need to hear this. You need to let it land. You need to stop for just a moment and realize what you've done. Remember when you couldn't see how it would work out. Remember when every door seemed closed. I told you then. I said the doors weren't closed. You just weren't looking at the right walls. And what did you do? You found windows, you found cracks, you found passages that didn't exist until you needed them. See, I told you the universe was conspiring for you, not against you. But you had to live it to believe it, didn't you? You had to walk through the fire to discover you were fireproof. You had to face the impossible to realize you were born for this. And now look where you are. Look what you've created. Look who you've become. I remember the exact moment it shifted for you. Do you? It was that day when something inside you just clicked. When you stopped asking how and started knowing when. When you stopped hoping and started expecting. That was the day everything changed, wasn't it? Congratulations. You finally did it. And the beautiful thing is this isn't luck. This isn't coincidence. This is what happens when someone remembers who they really are and stops apologizing for it. This is what happens when someone decides to trust the vision in their heart more than the doubt in their head. I watched you do it. I watched you choose yourself over and over when it would have been easier to choose safety. I watched you bet on your dreams when the odds makers said you were crazy. I watched you become the person who could handle what you've received. Because that's the secret you discovered, isn't it? You didn't just achieve something, you became someone. Someone who could hold this level of success. Someone who could handle this level of joy. Someone who could receive what the universe had been trying to give you all along. So today we're not going to talk about how to get there. You're already there. You're going to talk about the view from the summit. We're going to remember the climb, not to relive the struggle, but to honor the strength it revealed. We're going to celebrate not just what you've accomplished, but who you become. Congratulations. You finally did it. Now let's talk about what it really is. You thought you were just going after a goal. You thought you were trying to achieve something. Look what really happened. You transformed reality itself. You bent the universe to your will. You proved that consciousness creates, not the other way around. Remember when I told you that the how wasn't your job? Remember how hard that was to accept. You kept trying to figure it out, kept trying to see the whole staircase. But then you did it. You took that first step in the dark. And what happened? The next step appeared, just like I said it would. See, I told you the bridge would build itself as you walked across it, and it did, didn't it? Not the way you expected. It was better, more magical, more synchronistic. The universe showed off through your life, just like I promised. I remember when you first started feeling it, when you first knew, really knew it was done. It wasn't hope anymore. It was certainty. You walked differently that day. Do you remember? You spoke differently. You became the person who had already received, and that's when everything accelerated. Congratulations. You finally did it. You finally understood that you don't get what you want. You get what you are. You remember the day you almost quit? I do. It was that Tuesday when everything seemed to be going backwards, when all the evidence pointed to failure, when that voice in your head got so loud you could barely hear your heart. But you didn't quit. Do you remember what you did instead? You went quiet. You went within, and in that silence you found something. Not hope, something stronger. Knowledge, a knowing so deep that doubt couldn't reach it. That was the day you graduated from wishing to knowing. That was the day you stopped being a student of possibility and became a master of certainty. I watched it happen. I saw the shift in your eyes. Remember when I told you to stop looking at what is and start looking at what's becoming? You thought I was speaking in riddles, but then you tried it. You started seeing the invisible. You started feeling the future as present. You started living in the end. That's when the magic started, wasn't it? That's when the coincidences began piling up. That's when the right people started appearing. That is when doors you didn't even know existed swung wide open. See, I told you that reality was negotiable, but you had to negotiate from power, not from need. You had to speak as the one who decides, not the one who hopes. And once you found that true voice, your voice, the universe had no choice but to comply. Congratulations. You finally did it. You finally became who you always were beneath the fear. Let's look at the evidence. Not to prove it to you, you're living it, but to acknowledge the miraculous, to honor how reality completely reorganized itself around your knowing. Remember that phone call that changed everything? The one that came out of nowhere? I told you it was coming. I said, watch what happens when you release the how, and then boom, that call, that opportunity, that open door you couldn't have imagined. You want to know something? That call didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of your frequency. It came because you finally matched the vibration of your desire. The universe had been trying to make that connection for years, but you weren't on the right channel until you were. Remember, when the money showed up, not the way you planned, not through the avenue you expected, but it came, didn't it? Just like I said, money flows to clarity and certainty, not to desperation and doubt. You got clear. You got certain. And look what happened. I told you that when you truly decide, the universe conspires, not eventually, immediately. The conspiracy begins the moment the decision is real. And your decision became real the day you stopped negotiating with your dreams The day you stopped asking permission from probability. See how everyone around you shifted? Remember how some people fell away and new ones appeared? I warned you about that. I said, when you change frequencies, you change realities. Not everyone can come with you. And you let them go with love, didn't you? Because you finally understood that holding on to the old would prevent the new. Congratulations, you finally did it. You finally chose your dreams over other people's comfort. But here's what I'm most proud of. It's not what you achieved, it's who you became. Because things can come and go. But who you've become, that's permanent. That's the real fortune. Remember when you used to wake up anxious and your first thought was about what could go wrong? Look at you now. You wake up expecting good things. You wake up knowing the universe is on your side. It's not positive thinking, that's positive being. I remember telling you, you'll know you've shifted when problems become interesting instead of terrifying. And now look, you see challenges as puzzles to solve, not walls to stop you. You see obstacles as redirection, not rejection. You have become someone who dances with life instead of defending against it. Remember when you were afraid to want too much? When you thought desire was dangerous? I told you then, your desires are your compass. They're showing you where to expand, and you finally listened. You finally let yourself want without apology. And that's when everything accelerated, didn't it? You have become magnetic. Have you noticed? People feel something different about you now. They can't quite name it, but they feel it. It's the energy of someone who is aligned. Someone who's not trying to be anywhere other than where they are. Someone who knows the secret. Congratulations! You finally did it. Finally became the person who could receive everything you'd been asking for. Now you know things. Not intellectually, cellularly. You know that time is not linear. When you're creating, you know that feeling is the language the universe speaks. You know that gratitude is not a practice, it's a state of being. Remember when I told you to celebrate before the evidence? Remember how insane that sounded? How can I celebrate what hasn't happened? You asked. But then you tried it. You threw that party in your mind. You felt the joy before the justification. And what happened? What did I tell you? The evidence rushed to match your celebration. You know now that waiting is just doubting in slow motion. You know that hoping is just fear wearing a smile. But knowing is power. And you found your knowing. You found that place inside where doubt can't reach, where circumstances don't matter, where what is becomes irrelevant compared to what is decided. See, I told you, the universe doesn't respond to need, it responds to certainty. And you got certain, didn't you? Not arrogant, certain. There's a difference. Arrogance pushes, certainty attracts. And you became a master of attractive certainty. Remember when you finally understood that rejection was protection. When that door closed, and instead of devastation, you felt relief. Because you knew it meant something better was coming. And it did, didn't it? It always does when you trust the process. Congratulations. You finally did it. You finally learned to read the signs instead of forcing the path. And now here you are, living the life you used to dream about. But notice something, it feels normal now, doesn't it? Not ordinary, normal. Because you become the person for whom this level of success, joy, abundance is natural. Remember when I said, the goal isn't to get something, it's to become someone. You thought I was just being philosophical, but now you see it. Now you understand the becoming was the journey. The getting was just the evidence. You've installed a new operating system. You run different software now. Where you used to see lack, you now see opportunity. Where you used to see endings, you now see beginnings. Where you used to see problems, you now see possibilities. This is not optimism. It's optimization. You have optimized your consciousness for success. I told you this would happen. I said one day, what feels most impossible now will feel inevitable. And here we are. You're living at a level that once seemed unreachable. And it feels like the most natural thing in the world, because it is natural. For who you've become. Remember when you were afraid of success, when you worried you couldn't handle it. Look at you handling it. Look at you expanding to meet it. Look at you raising your ceiling every time you approach it. You have become someone who grows with their blessings instead of being buried by them. Congratulations. You finally did it. You finally stopped playing small and started playing real. But here's the most beautiful part. Look what your success is doing for others. Remember when you worried that wanting more made you selfish? Remember when you thought staying small was somehow noble? Look at the ripple effect now. Your success gave other people permission. Your breakthrough showed them what's possible. Your joy reminded them that happiness is not selfish, it's service. Because joy is contagious, success is inspiring, and your willingness to receive has shown others how to open their hands. I told you this would happen. I said your playing small doesn't serve the world. Your magnificence does. But you had to live it to believe it. You had to see how your light literally lights up rooms, how your success stories become what other people's possibility fuel. See how your children look at you now. They're not just seeing a parent, they're seeing proof that dreams do come true. They're learning by watching that limits are optional. That's the legacy you're creating. Not just what you're leaving them, but who you're showing them they can become. Remember that person who said you'd never make it. The one whose doubt used to keep you up at night. They asked you recently how you did it, didn't they? And you told them the truth. You decided to believe in your dreams more than their doubts. And that decision changed everything. Congratulations, you finally did it. You finally understood that your success is a gift to everyone around you. Now let me tell you what really happened, because you think you manifested something, but that's only half the truth. You didn't pull something from nothing. You revealed something that was always there. Remember when I told you it's already done in consciousness? You thought that was metaphysical fluff, but now you understand. Now you see the creation is complete. Everything exists. Your job wasn't to create. It was to align, to tune into the frequency where your desire already existed. You didn't make it happen. You let it happen. There's a profound difference. Making is force, letting is flow. And once you found your flow, once you stopped pushing the river and started flowing with it, everything accelerated. I told you the universe wasn't testing you. It was preparing you. Every delay was divine timing. Every obstacle was an opportunity to become stronger. Every no was just redirecting you to a better yes. And now from this vantage point, you can see it, can't you? You can see how perfectly it all unfolded. See, I knew you'd make it, not because I'm psychic, but because I understand the laws. When someone really decides and backs that decision with aligned action and sustained faith, success isn't possible, it's inevitable. You became inevitable the day you stopped wavering. Remember when synchronicity started happening daily? When you'd think of someone and they'd call? When you'd need something and it would appear? That wasn't luck. That was alignment. That was you operating at the frequency of flow. That was the universe showing you that you'd finally synced up with your truth. Congratulations, you finally did it. You finally understood that you're not separate from the desires, you're one with them. And now you know the secret of sustained success. It's not about holding on tight. It's about staying open. It's not about protecting what you have. It's about knowing more is always coming. You've shifted from scarcity to abundance. And that shift is permanent. Remember when you were afraid it would all disappear. When you thought success was fragile, I told you then, what's truly yours can never be lost. And now you live from that knowing. You hold everything lightly because you know you're the source, not the stuff. You have learned to receive with the same grace you give. Remember how hard that was at first. You could give all day, but receiving felt uncomfortable until you realized that receiving is just giving someone else the gift of giving. Now you receive like a master, openly, grateful, abundantly. I watch how you handle the challenges now. They don't throw you anymore. You have developed a success resilience. You know that every storm passes, every winter ends, every challenge contains its own solution. This is not naive. This is earned wisdom. See how you make decisions now, from power, not pressure, from knowing, not needing. You become someone who creates from fullness, not emptiness. That's why what you create lasts. That's why what you build stands, because it's built on the foundation of who you've become. Congratulations, you finally did it. You finally learned that success is not something you achieve, it's something you become. And now the real fun begins, because you're not done. You're just getting started. What you've accomplished isn't the ceiling, it's the floor. It's the new baseline from which you'll create even more magnificence. Remember when this level seemed impossible. Now it's your new normal. Which means what seems impossible now is just your next normal waiting to be claimed. You've proven to yourself that limits are lies. You've shown yourself that impossible is just an opinion you don't have to share. See what's coming for you. Not because I'm prophetic, but because I understand momentum. Success breeds success. Confidence creates more confidence. And you, my friend, are in the flow of exponential expansion. What took years before will take months now. What took months will take weeks. Because you have mastered the art of aligned manifestation. You know what excites me most? You're not the same person who started this journey, which means you're going to create things that person couldn't have imagined. You're going to impact lives in ways that old you wouldn't have dared dream. You're going to leave a legacy that starts now and ripples through generations. Remember when you just wanted to prove you could do it. Now you've proven it. So what's next is pure creation for the joy of creating. Pure expansion for the thrill of expanding. Pure service from the overflow of your abundance. Congratulations. You finally did it. And this is just the beginning. Let me tell you something I've been waiting to say until you were ready to hear it. You want to know the real secret, the deepest truth? You didn't develop these powers, you revealed them. They were always there, always. Every single quality you needed to succeed was already in you. I didn't teach you anything new. I just reminded you of what you'd forgotten. The courage, yours. The wisdom, yours. The power, it was always yours. Always. Remember, when you thought you needed to become someone different to have what you wanted. That was the lie. You needed to become who you really are. You needed to strip away the stories, the limitations, the fears that were covering your true nature. And once you did, once you revealed the real you, everything else revealed itself. That's why it feels so natural now. That's why success feels like coming home. Because it is. You're not living someone else's life. You're finally living your life. The one you came here to live. The one that was always waiting for you to claim it. I knew this day would come when I first started speaking to you about what's possible. I could see this moment. I could see you standing here, living proof of everything we talked about. Not because I'm special, but because you are. And deep down, you always knew it. You just needed to remember. Congratulations, you finally did it. You finally came home to yourself. So here we are. At the summit you once thought was too high to climb, breathing air that once seemed too rarefied to reach, living a life that once seemed too good to be true. Except it's not too good to be true. It's too good not to be true, because this is who you really are. Take a moment. Really take it in. Feel it in your bones. You did this. You did this. Not luck, not chance, not because you're special or chosen or different, but because you decided, and you kept deciding until the universe had no choice but to deliver. This is your moment of recognition. This is your moment of celebration. This is your moment to know without a shadow of a doubt that you are living, breathing, walking proof that we can be, do, and have anything we desire. You're not just successful. You're a success story that will inspire generations. Remember when you couldn't see how. Remember when you couldn't imagine when. Remember when you almost gave up. And now look, just look at where you are. Look at who you've become. Look at what you've created. Look at the lives you've touched. Look at the legacy you're building. Congratulations, you finally did it. And if you did this, if you turned that impossible dream into your daily reality, imagine what else you can do. Imagine what's next. Imagine what other impossible things are just waiting for you to decide they are possible. The revolution doesn't end with achievement. It begins there, because now you know the truth. Now you know the secret. Now you know that you're the one you've been waiting for. Welcome to your life, your real life. The one where miracles are just Mondays and impossible is just the beginning. You did it. You actually did it, and I couldn't be more proud. Now that you're here, now that you've proven what's possible, let me share something with you. This success, this achievement, it was never just about you. It was preparation to training. You were being equipped for something bigger. Remember when challenges felt like punishment, when obstacles felt like the universe was against you? See how clear it is now? Every single challenge was training. Every single obstacle was building strength you need for this moment. You weren't being tested. You were being prepared to hold this level of power. Because here's what happens when someone breaks through like you have. They become a lighthouse, not by trying, just by being. Your frequency now broadcasts possibility. Your presence now activates potential in others. You have become a walking permission slip for everyone who meets you. I told you this would happen. Remember, I said your success will activate dormant dreams in others. You thought it was just me being poetic, but now you see it in their eyes when they talk to you. That spark of recognition, that moment when they realize if you could do it, maybe they can too. See, the universe doesn't create success for entertainment. It creates stories like this for evolution. Your breakthrough is not just personal, it was planetary. Every time someone rises like you have, it raises the ceiling for our entire species. You made the impossible more possible for everyone. This is your sacred assignment now, not to preach, not to push, just to be living proof. To walk through this world as someone who remembers what's possible, to exist as evidence that dreams come true. Your very presence now heals the doubt in others. Remember when you felt alone on this journey, when you thought no one would understand. That loneliness was preparation too, because now you can hold space for others who feel that way. Congratulations, you finally did it. You became a catalyst for human potential. Let's talk about what no one mentions after massive success, the integration. Because becoming who you are now is one thing, living as this person day after day is the real mastery. And you're doing it beautifully. Remember those first few weeks after everything shifted, when you kept waiting for the other shoe to drop? When success felt like wearing clothes that didn't quite fit yet? I told you then, give it time, you'll grow into it. And you did, didn't you? Now it fits like it was custom made because it was. You've learned something most people never discover. Success isn't something you achieve and then guard. It's something you become and then embody. Every day, you wake up and choose to be this version of you. Every day, you demonstrate what it means to live without limits. See how different your problems are now. They're not survival problems anymore. They're creation problems, expansion problems. How can I serve more instead of how can I get more? That shift right there, that's the difference between temporary success and permanent transformation. I remember telling you about the identity crisis that comes with quantum jumps. How the old you would try to pull you back. How familiar dysfunction would feel safer than unfamiliar success. But you navigated it like a master. You let the old identity die with grace. You grieved who you were while celebrating who you were becoming. And now look, you fully integrated. The success you isn't a costume you wear. It's who you are in your cells, in your breath, in your natural way of being. You don't have to think about being successful anymore. You just are. You've mastered the art of energetic hygiene. Remember when other people's doubts could derail you? When one negative comment could spiral you out for days? Now you're sovereign. Now you hold your frequency regardless of what's happening around you. That is true power. This integration, this embodiment, it's the difference between those who achieve and fall back and those who achieve and rise higher. You're the latter. You become someone for whom this level is the floor, not the ceiling. Remember when I said the real work begins after the breakthrough? This is what I meant. The daily choice to live as who you've become, the consistent embodiment of your new normal, and you're doing it with such grace. Congratulations. You finally did it. You didn't just achieve success, you became it. Now that you've finally done it, all we can do is celebrate. Celebrate your victory. So I wrote you this song because you finally did it. And this is the final part of this activation, the celebration.
You were lost, now you're found. You were quiet, now you're sound. Every no became a yes. Every test became success. You finally did it. You finally did it. The dream is real. You finally did it. You finally did it. Now you feel. felt wrong. Let you rise. Darkness taught you your light. You finally did it. You finally did it. The dream is real. You finally did it. You finally did it. Now you feel. Oh, this is who you always were. This is what you're here for. This is who you always were, walking through the open door. Now you know, now you see, you became who you're meant to be. It was always you. Now you know it's true. You finally did it. You finally did it. The dream is real. You finally did it. You finally did it. You finally real. You finally did it. Finally free. Finally did it. Finally did it. Finally free. Finally did it.
You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. And welcome to The Reality Revolution. Hello, it's Brian Scott. And I'm beyond excited to finally announce a live, in-person, 3-day event that I'm hosting in Los Angeles on November 21st through the 23rd. And when you walk away from this event, your life will be changed forever. Whatever it is that you're looking for right now, if you need to heal from something, to find the love of your life, to find wealth, to find your purpose, to ascend, to evolve, whatever that is, whatever your desire, this event is designed to bring that to you. There is a timeline available for you where you can live the very best life that you could ever imagine, where everything is always working out for you. And this event is designed to shift you into that reality and make it something tangible and real that you experience. I promise you that this will change your life.